Okay, and now I'm gonna share my screen. And is that good? Everybody got it?
Yep.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Looks good.
Oh, look, Mary Arthur's bank account information.
Somehow I lost my PowerPoint screen here that lets me actually run the slideshow. Just a minute. Where the heck did it go? Oh, there it is. Okay, Fred, you ready?
Great.
You can
Yes.
see it says Epic Systems and picture of the campus, right? All right, so go for it and tell me when you want me to advance.
Okay. This is actually an aerial view of the main complex, but we'll show you later. It is much larger than this. Next slide. This is the entrance to the main complex. Next slide. I'll let you read this, and then the next slide, I will give a introduction. Remember that last sentence in that previous slide. Let's go back to that first slide. There you go. Read that last sentence and remember that later on. And also, this is the world's headquarters of Epic Systems. Next slide. Epic Systems was founded in Madison in 1979 by Judith Faulkner, with the office in Westgate. If you remember, Eastgate was a thriving mall, but Westgate deteriorated and office space was available. In 2002, after 23 years of their operation at Westgate, they moved their main headquarters to Verona, Wisconsin. Verona is 10 miles southwest of Madison. Epic Systems houses the world's largest learning center dedicated exclusively to the healthcare technology. Epic first purchased 280 acres of the adjacent farm to the city of Verona in 2002, shortly expanding the property to 811 acres, and it is now at 1,000 acres.
Wow.
When I took a tour of 55 people from our LIR program through this complex, the mayor actually is the former mayor of Verona, who was one of the most articulate individuals I had heard, was spearheading the development and transfer of Epic Systems to Verona. And he spoke to our group, and these are the details that he revealed, and there is no way you can find these details on the internet. So it's amazing. He was one of the number of officials which brought Epic to Verona. Various funding packages were needed to be put together, such as a $1 million city bond passed by the city council. Talk about faith.
Wow.
$10 million TIF district was developed for highway interchange. TIF districts are governed by state law and our specified terms is 23 years. Epic paid the funds back in 15. If TIF districts get all the tax revenue until the principal is paid back, other taxing bodies like the county, school, technical colleges sign off from sharing tax revenue till the TIF is satisfied. Epic got a $7 million industrial development loan using Verona's name. Confidence plus. A total of $18 million was in place over a 9-month period of time to get this company to move to Verona. Epic in 2014 paid 1/3 of the city of Verona's total taxes. 1/3. Presently, they employ 10,000 people, all have private offices. Microsoft conducted a study in 2012 comparing the cubicle office to the private office. Employees in a private office were 2.5 times more productive than the employees in the cubicle style office.
Wow.
If any of you have worked in a cubicle office, you will know what they meant. The huge theater called the Deep Space has the capacity of 11,000 people, 3 floors below the ground in 42 escalators. Several years ago, this story is not on the internet. Several years ago, bricks were ordered, a building was under construction with a large wall completed. The founder, Judy Faulkner, didn't like the color of the bricks. The wall was removed. The total inventory of the bricks was given to the city of Verona, which they used to build a new library, a grade school, and bricks were left over. Remaining bricks were given to another neighboring city. With approximately 1,000 employees live in Verona, an estimated value of the company is at $1.5 billion. According to official records, Epic Medical Record System cover 55% of the US population that receives medical care, including hospitals in Europe, UK, United Arab Emirates, and also Singapore. Next slide.
I don't see anything on here. Oh,
Next slide. This is a circular drive in front of the entrance. Next slide. Next slide. These are the connecting buildings from the outside. Next slide.
oh my God.
Next slide. Next slide. This is only the main building, not the outlying buildings. Next slide.
Oh my goodness.
Immaculate. But the way the building is designed, there is so much light into all of the rooms and a massive corridor down the middle. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. As you walk into this massive building, this is the entrance, and then next slide. This is the lobby. To the left is a snack bar available to all employees 7 days a week.
Wow.
Next slide. This is their eating place for that snack bar. Next slide. This is the space vehicle. Next slide of the
Oh,
Voyager. Now, these two maps show the upper level and the lower level. We are in the lower level now. When if you will look at the lower, kind of a shape of an S, the Voyager entrance is where we are standing right now. It would be the lower right-hand corner of that S shape, but the Voyager Hall, that's it, is
mhm.
where we are now. Now, looking down the corridor through that pink one, this is where you're going to be walking. Next slide. The lady in the middle in the gray slacks, you might recognize her.
Your wife?
No.
No, can't
Um,
see.
Looks like Marion.
and Anderson. Just Joyce. Connie Anderson. Connie Anderson. Her husband was the personnel director of the Fond du Lac High School.
Ah,
Oh, I
Next
know
slide.
her. She was
Pardon
on.
me?
She was on the concert association board.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Next slide. Next slide.
oh,
Oh my.
Next slide.
Does that say clowns?
That's a clown.
And it says clowns on the door.
What's the
The wall.
significance of having the clowns?
Pardon me?
What's the significance of having clowns?
Every room had a theme, and they
movie.
started off with the movie
Greatest show on earth.
Just
Yeah.
Greatest
go
Show on Earth.
Yeah.
And then these themes are carried through the architecture or the design of the meeting rooms. Okay, next slide. This is my favorite. Next slide. Temple of Doom.
Oh
Oh,
my.
yeah, look.
Next slide. They go through, this is what the meeting rooms looks like. Now, the concept is they will train people to be trainers. The trainer, after you go through this training program, you go back to your hospital and then train your employees about the system.
Yeah.
So, and then they have refresher courses, and it just is an ongoing program. Next slide. Next slide. Well,
You want to go back?
Yeah.
let people read this. It's what I explained earlier. Next slide. These are two pictures of two private offices. They have a window. It was right behind the door to the outside, so they have, they can see what the weather is like outside. But these rooms are just amazing. They measure 10 by 12, so it's a nice, comfortable one. It's not a closed closet. Next slide.
Hmm.
Are you ready for this one?
Oh.
Next slide.
Oh,
That's
wow.
one way to get down.
Next slide.
I want to work there.
I just want to ride on it.
Now, the cardinal rule, if you are wearing sneakers or rubber-soled shoes, you have to keep them up in the air
Yeah.
because you
He'll
will
smack
you-
against the top.
you will have disaster. Okay, next
I
slide.
can see that.
Every building that's connected has a theme, and this one is remarkable. Next slide.
Oh,
This is a wall as you're walking from the main building to this new complex. Next slide. This is the hallway.
Oh,
Next
beautiful.
slide.
I could work there every day.
They've put so much thought into environment and surroundings.
Oh, next slide.
Mhm.
Talk about emotional uplifting when you walk through this. It is just amazing. The psychology of the design is amazing. Next slide. This is just the wall and then a skylight. Next slide. This is a break room where you can relax and converse and exchange ideas with your fellow employees. Next slide. This is just looking at this upper level as we were walking past that previous slide. Next slide. Now, the selection of these pieces of artwork are not, the rules are not very restrictive, but the amount of money varies depending on the amount of appreciation that employee had offered that year. And sit back and really enjoy this. Next slide.
Hmm.
that's cute.
The Simpsons
Simpsons.
chessboard. Next
Cute.
slide. A statue in three different views.
Wow.
Next slide. This is incredible. I have no idea what the cost of this, but this is an original. There is no other. Next slide.
That's cool.
Next slide. This is the same picture, but it's 3D, and it's just remarkable.
Oh, wow.
Next slide. The one on the left, I just burst out laughing when I saw it because it is just classic. And this is about this statue of Elvis is about 5 feet tall. Next slide.
Who's the one on the left?
I have no idea.
Oh,
Next slide.
It's cool. Oh, that's cute. Cat in the Hat.
Yes,
Where's
in
my cat in the hat today?
in tin, yes.
Gorgeous.
And that figure was 6 foot
Wow.
sitting down, yes. Next slide. Next
Cool.
slide.
Same on.
These are just remarkable statues. And these are 5 foot tall.
That looks
Same
like the
artist.
same artist, yeah.
No,
Is it?
it
Yeah,
might
the
be,
same
yes,
artist.
it might be, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's
But they're
standing on a
standing-
turtle.
Yeah.
They're standing on a turtle, yes.
Turtle. Yeah, wow.
Next slide. You wouldn't believe this. Next slide. Stairs go right up through trees
Oh,
and these are real trees.
Oh,
No
Wow.
artificial
Huh.
leaves, and
Wow.
they are actually watered and fed and true living trees. Next slide. This wall is actually of employees that have spent more than 10 years or more with the corporation. Next slide. Which is really unique.
yeah.
While
their
we're
first
talking
names.
about the employees, added fringe is after, I think, 5 years, you get a paid 1 month vacation,
Oh,
Wow.
set at an amount given to take a spouse or a companion along, and wherever you want to go, United States or overseas, the vacation is paid for.
The
Completely.
moon. Wanna
Sabbatical.
go to the moon. Only their first names are listed. That's interesting.
Yes.
Hmm.
Couple with last.
Next slide. The break rooms and lounge areas are scattered throughout this complex. Next slide.
were you there on a work day?
Yes,
Okay, because all the
And-
lounges have been empty. I just was curious.
Yeah.
there were meetings going on, and also we were on our own. We had a self-guided tour. We had a pamphlet in that they gave us. When Joyce and I went, when I went back for the second time, I took Joyce and just the two of us. And we went through the visitors entrance, and they would give you a pamphlet explaining the various areas and
Wow.
maps. But if you were standing there and looked puzzled and a young geek would walk by, they would very, very courteously stop and say, "Can I give you any assistance?" And
Aw,
it is just remarkable.
yeah.
Age of the employees ranges from 23 to about 35. Next
Wow.
slide. Very, very comforting, warm welcome
colors,
to
yeah.
these lounge areas. Next slide. Another piece of artwork that is incredible.
Cool.
Next slide.
Mm.
This is one of the break rooms. coffee, outstanding. Nice, dark, strong coffee. And bakery, that was unbelievable. And it's always fresh. And it's always, replenished constantly. Next slide.
They must have their own kitchen, wouldn't that be?
Yes. Now you can see through these windows the outside of that S-shaped building. And this is the beauty of it, because everybody is exposed, or all these rooms are exposed to
Daylight.
the outside. The meeting rooms are darkened when they are doing the slide presentation, to the point that it is total darkness. No skimpy curtains. But when it's open and when the speaker is available with no slide presentation, it's bathed in sunlight. Next slide.
Shake, rattle, and roll.
It's great.
Shake, rattle, and roll.
Next slide. This is the lobby of this auditorium. Next slide.
Oh,
Oh, oh my.
These jumbo TV screens are 3, one in the center and then 2 on the sides.
What did it say Verona High School uses it for?
Graduation,
Graduation. Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
5,600 capacity.
Well,
Guess you can bring all your friends.
Look at the ceiling.
it's like a theater.
Now, when they constructed this, the ceiling was at floor level. All electricians and technicians installed this into the ceiling on the floor. With hydraulic lifts, they lifted the ceiling up and then put the walls around it.
Wow.
Clever.
Next slide.
Amazing.
Nice.
Look at the people up there, look like midgets.
Next slide.
Beautiful.
There you can see the people in comparison to that
Mhm.
auditorium. No beams in the center of that auditorium. Next slide.
My goodness.
Next slide. Now, the deep space is a larger auditorium.
Oh, my goodness.
It's 11,000. It's 3 floors below the ground. Everybody, I think, knows John Vandycastle. He had passed away a number of years ago. John's son was one of the 6 architects of this facility, working out of Minneapolis. John conveyed this story as they were constructing the deep space. Judith asked John's son, "Here we have my creation. Are there any adjustments needed?" And John's son turned and he said, "Yes, you need 9 more escalators. There are 33. That will not be enough to transport the people, 11,000 people, 3 floors down."
Oh my.
She turned to him, she says, "Do it." Not ask how much is it going to cost, do it. Didn't question it whatsoever. Now,
42.
I don't know the facts behind this, but at this depth, the temperature of the ground is at 52 degrees. This is standard. If you ever go 3 feet or 3 levels down in the ground, the temperature is a standard 52 degrees. If you go into caves that are this deep, likewise. The statement that I said, remember, about the engineering of this facility. They have a piping system. It's a thermodynamic operation. They take this air that it's 52 degrees and utilize it to keep the building, this huge complex, air conditioned with this air that is at 52 degrees. They also can warm this air that's at 52 degrees better than trying to warm a facility this large when the temperature is at 80 degrees outside. So this dynamic heating system is generated from the depth of this deep space. Next slide. To the center, or in the center, you can see the escalators going down. There are 13 sets of escalators, and there are 3 sets of 13, making a total of 42. Next slide. Next slide. This was an ongoing construction site of the Harry Potter Academy, which is now complete, and it is a design of the castle. The exterior building looks just like the castle in Harry Potter's movies. But look at these 3, actually there are 5 cranes working. They have been working on site for approximately 15 years. Each crane rental per day is $10,000. So you're looking at $50,000 just for rental a day for this construction. Next slide. These are the preliminary drawings of the Harry Potter Academy, or the Wizard Academy, what it will be looking like.
Oh, yeah, look at that. Oh, there's the turret.
Next slide. Any questions?
Is that only for tourists to come down that slide?
Oh, no, employees. Oh,
I mean, employees, that's what I meant. Yeah, no
oh,
tourists.
no, tourists can do it too.
Oh,
When those people that were shown in those pictures, those were in that tour from LAR.
oh.
Um,
I noticed one thing, the rooms where they have the meetings where they train trainees or trainees, trainers. There wasn't a picture on the wall. The only thing on the wall was a small clock, and that was amazing. They really keep it at a, you know,
Correct.
100% dedicated to the
Do they
work.
have any, Fred, do they have any residential facilities for the employees to live in?
No, there's approximately 1,000 of the employees live in Verona and the rest live in Madison.
Yeah,
And one of the reasons that it is such an attraction for the young people is that they still have the weekends that they can enjoy the Madison lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so many of them have apartments in Madison and commute. Another thing, the parking ramps are all one level, but the roof of the parking facilities is actually made up of solar panels. All of the parking ramps throughout the complex have solar panels on top of the roof of the parking facilities. And it is so well designed that it is, you have to think about it, that it is a solar panel and not a roof. It's so well designed that it is not intrusive or objectionable.
Right.
If we could go back to the first slide.
Okay. Don't know if there's a quick. A lot of my screen is obscured here, so I don't know.
Okay.
I can just keep going until I get there. If you can.
Or
bear
just
with me.
The other good thing about working there is that you don't go with the traffic, you go against it in the morning, and at night you go back.
true.
That would be a big plus for me.
interesting. Epic really has only one competitor with the electronic medical record. They really have a monopoly on it. St. Agnes Hospital has been using a different system called Cerner, but they're moving out to Epic. And that transition is going to take a year to get that medical record transferred from one to another.
Yeah.
Has
Aurora also joined in February of this year with St. Agnes.
Yeah, it's a massive cost to make that kind of a transition.
Yes.
They do very well.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah, it looks like it.
I think though that a lot of that electronic medical record has been sort of subsidized by the government. I think that subsidy may
Oh,
be diminished, but that doesn't make any difference. They'll make it on their own, just the way they're.
Well, it certainly has made it more efficient. And then My Advocate program where you can go online and see all your medical records is just breathtaking.
yeah.
Here is this picture. It shows the parking lot of cars. This was one of the parking lots that had not had the solar panels put in as yet. This was an earlier picture. But if you look to the Epic word in the ceiling or on the roof is where the center, the Epic Center auditorium is. The entrance is in this loop to the left, the closest loop of that S, that was the entrance. And you can see the facility, how it looked from above. So is there any other questions that you might have?
When they talk about the employee numbers, how many of those are located here and how many are worldwide, you know?
The 10,000 are, let me think, there's a 1,000 employees in this complex. And all have private offices. The total are spread out in the various offices actually in the United States and in Europe. I don't have the list of the countries, but Singapore was one that had an office, but the 10,000 is distributed throughout the world, to answer your question.
What do you know about the woman who owns it or who started it? Is she still
She's
busy?
still very active.
Yeah.
It is a private and employee-owned business.
Wow.
Yeah, she has become a billionaire and is
Oh, yes.
one of the richest women in America, and started out just as a nurse in her basement.
Wow. Pretty smart. Fred is now, so are they are the repository of medical records, or do they just set up the systems for hospitals?
They set up the system.
So there's no like major server there or anything like where the repository of all these records that hospitals can access? Not there. Okay.
Ironically, March 13th of this year, I had a doctor's appointment, and my doctor had told me that there was an employee of Epic Systems that was training at St. Agnes Hospital that came down with COVID.
Oh,
And later on, he had died. And he was out of the office in New Jersey.
Oh, sure, I remember.
And came here. And this was way before even testing was available and he was perfectly fine when he left New Jersey, and when he was here, he became sick, and this is what I was told. Dr.
Right.
Trefford,
Right.
did you hear anything?
Well, that's true that he was assigned to St. Agnes and Epic. That's what Epic does, is they will assign hospitals to an individual. And he was here actually helping to install the system.
Right.
And he never made it home. He died in Fond du Lac.
Great.
Yeah.
Yes.
I remember that.
His family, I remember his family, I think, came here before he died, but he died in the hospital.
Right.
Fred, can I end this, or do you want to?
If there's any, one other thing I want to mention, after this pandemic is over with, it's only about an hour and a half drive down to Verona. The hours you can go on their website and go there. Which amazes me is they will have it open during the day. I can't remember, it's 10 to 5 and weekdays, and on weekends, it's from 10 to 3 on Saturday or Sunday, that you can come and walk through and tour the facility. I was so impressed with the openness, the warmth of the employees, and the magnificent cleanliness of this facility. When you think that it was started to be built in 2002, it's 18 years ago, what they have done. The architecture itself is so unique. I cannot imagine, and I truly, pictures can only give you so much. But when you walk in there and see this magnificent facility, it is truly amazing to be here in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never would have guessed, I mean, not that we can't have big things in Wisconsin, but I never
Yeah.
would have guessed that that was
Yeah, I
someplace.
didn't know about it either.
No.
But you know, I would love to have a discussion with the leaders of Madison, what they thought of their staunch stand on not allowing her to take over Westgate or Westtown Shopping Center.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a question. Did you ever get to see the kitchen?
No,
Oh,
no.
I'd like to have seen the kitchen. I'll bet it was.
Fred, did they talk at all about their plans for the future?
Pardon me?
Was there any talk, or have you had any talk with them about their plans for the future? I mean, are they done expanding, or are they going to continue to expand?
After the Harry Potter or the Wizard Academy, I think that was the last on their agenda for building at that time. But I remember driving by that facility, taking 151 towards Dubuque. There were cranes working in 2010, feverishly building this facility, and every time we went by, there were still more cranes and more buildings. It was just amazing. Yes.
What is that going to be? What is it now? What does the facility, that particular one, do? Is that a place to, what is it?
The facility,
What do they
is-
have in the Harry Potter thing?
well, it'd be the same. It would be an office space and training,
Okay.
and would have training facilities just like the
other ones.
the other ones. Yeah. But it's an environment. There is in one of the auditoriums, looks like a medieval castle with a man in full armor at the door, and a very large fireplace that you would see in a castle in the waiting room. Yeah, it is just a remarkable facility.
I'm just on their website, and there's a ton of stuff here you can poke around and look at. Everything getting around campus on a kick bike, farm pantry delivery program. I was wondering too, and probably we could find it on here somewhere with this individual offices and everything, but I wonder what the impact of COVID, if they're doing more working from home, and what their model will look like after we can, just curious, because they're talking about generally, companies that deal with information are going to be more and more working from home even after it's over. So,
It's going to be a long time before they use those auditoriums.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
yeah. I'm sure they're
What
going
a
to.
shame.
There's an article from August 2nd where they mandated all their employees to go back at work at Epic. And of course, there was a big hubbub about it. I don't know what the result was, but there's a lot in the journal written about it. I just noticed the employees didn't want to go back, and they were contending that it was safe in their building with all the separate places. So I don't know.
Sure.
Interesting. Huh. And I saw on one of the screens here that over 250 million people have their medical records on an Epic system.
Wow.
Hope it doesn't crash.
Well, that's what I was curious about, that aspect of it, how they utilize servers and how they network them all and everything, because that'd be another whole level of, how this works. So
Well, they probably have it backed up and then backed up and then backed up so that they can't lose all of it at
yeah,
one time.
But that would be each individual hospital would have their own server.
they bring in their own, so they install big servers in each.
Yeah.
But then they're all networked.
That's the-
That's the whole point of this,
Right.
that if you're on Aurora, or Agnesian's on there now too, and you're in Florida, that
Right.
another hospital with Epics can access your records. That
Sure.
would be the
Right.
point of it, right?
And Mayo Clinic is on. So if you go to a Mayo Clinic in Florida or Arizona or Rochester, Minnesota, you would be on their system.
Wow, that's cool.
Or if you were in Rome or
I
London,
wish.
England,
You can dream.
Their complex seems to be Google for adults.
Yeah.
I mean, it's if you look at Google and the way they're laid out, it's kind of young and snappy and all that kind of good stuff. And you look at what Epic has, and it's really the same thing, but it's a little more mature. I mean, they have nice spaces to sit and rest and to contemplate and do things, and they're offering food and they're offering beverage to their employees. The concept, I think, that's the biggest is the fact that they look at individual offices, and the fact that they have a lot of outside light makes a big difference.
Mhm. Natural light.
Bruce, you were referring to Google. Is there a way that you can, is there a way to know what their complex looks like inside?
Yes, there is. And I can find that out for you. Also, the other day, I stumbled across something on Apple's new complex, the donut, they call it out in
Yes.
California. And that was built around the assumption that there needed to be plenty of light. So that's why you have windows around all of the outside and windows around all of the inside. And there's no walls. It's all glass.
Wow.
And so that's an interesting, and I came across a video that just took a brief tour of that complex. But yeah, I can do a little research. I think there is, I forget where I found it. It's not a Google site. It's another site that has how Google is set up, and they have many different sites.